Hey guys, Greg's Builds here, and this quarantine has gotten me hella bored. And what do computer enthusiasts do when they're hella bored? They buy and they build. So that's why I decided to build a cryptocurrency mining rig. In this video, I'll be talking about viability, speculation, some things that you may not know, and just overall fun. First off, we got viability. Right now, everyone's sitting at home bored, so just overall, it's viable to cure boredom. So there you go, that's the only reason you really need to build a cryptocurrency mining rig. Second of all, a lot of the parts previously used for mining can be found at really good deals on the used market. So things like RX 580s or maybe 1070 Ti's, they're a super steep discount on the used market you could just get from like gamers who previously used them. So you can get a just maybe 1 or 2 year old card that hasn't been used for mining previously and get a great deal and just use it for mining. And then if you want to use it in a personal rig, you could also use it in a personal rig and then game with it and mine with it in your off time, which I have been doing on my personal computer, which you can see me build in a previous video that has a 1070 Ti in it. And I've been mining on it for probably about a week, and I mean, it's not much, but I've already made like $7, $8 from just purely using my computer and having it mining in the background when I'm like browsing the web or just watching a YouTube video. It's just, it runs in the background, I don't even notice it, and I'm making money. As for a dedicated mining rig, I think even though there was a huge cryptocurrency boom and then a huge drop in everything, that it's still decently viable and it's fun for a computer enthusiast to do because it's also just a hobby. Even if it makes 10 cents a day, you still got to build something, and it's still something you own and you can fiddle with. So it's just fun, and it's not your personal rig, so if you want to test things and it breaks down, you don't have to feel as bad. Now, as for speculation, right now there's a lot of uncertainty going on just in the world with currencies in general. You know, the US is having its own problems, Europe is having problems, everyone is having problems. And in times of great instability, you know, a decentralized currency like Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Litecoin, any coin really, is kind of a safe bet because it's like gold, you know? So if somebody doesn't want to hold cash, which could depreciate immensely if there's a lot of inflation, you can buy something like gold, which will always inherently have value, and cryptocurrency being decentralized will always have value just from demand and supply, where it's not governed by, you know, an entity that could print just billions on trillions of dollars, because everything's set on a path. So for speculation, you know, it could go up, it could go down, but in times of uncertainty, people usually enjoy buying commodities like gold, and in our new technological age, Bitcoin could possibly be the new gold, which will just always hold value because there's a finite amount of Bitcoin that is created periodically and not just when it's needed. So, as for things you may not know, there was actually a lot of things that just a normal computer builder wouldn't think about if they're trying to build a cryptocurrency mining rig. It's kind of shocking how much extra little things you need to make a build work. So this is just kind of also to inform, you know, to let you know that if you're looking to build a cryptocurrency mining rig, you also need these extra parts apart from just the computer. And I'll also just give a general part list, but also things that, again, I didn't know. So first of all, you're of course gonna need, you know, your frame. I built this frame out of wood for about, let's say, like $50. I paid $50 for all the wood needed from Home Depot, $50 Canadian. And I mean, you can buy a frame off Amazon from anywhere from $70 to like $150, but I don't mind woodworking. I found this really fun to build. It was kind of a fun challenge to woodwork, and because it was my first time building something out of wood. I found it really fun. I found that I spent my day outside building this, especially in quarantine. It's amazing to get outside. And I saved like $20 to like $50 from buying a real or manufactured mining frame. So that's really nice to have. You know, the extra dollars, that's like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 days of mining you just saved, and that's just going to be closer to your return on investment. Second of all, you're going to need your power supply. Now, I would say the power supply is even more important than the graphics cards, because this is what powers the graphics cards. You need to make sure that your power supply can handle everything you give to it. You need to make sure that it supplies enough power, and most importantly, this is very important, you need to make sure that your power supply has enough PCIe cables and just PCIe slots if you want to buy more. My power supply came with 4 PCIe cables. So that means each cable has 2 connectors, 2 8-pin connectors. So that means I could only have 8 cards with one either 6-pin or 8-pin connector. I can't have more than 4 graphics cards with 2 power connectors that it needs unless I want to buy more cables. And even if I want to buy more cables, the maximum amount of slots that this power supply can handle is 6 PCIe slots. Except one of those slots has to be taken up by the CPU cable. So you really have a maximum of 5 cards with 2 power connectors. So if you want to get cards that are, factory overclocked or something with 2 power connectors, you're really going to have to look towards either a server power supply or having your rig run 2 power supplies, because one just will not cut it unless you have enough PCIe connectors, which at the 1200 watt, 1000 watt probably just will not have. So you always have to keep that in mind. But if you're looking at one connector cards, like for example my 1070 Ti is one connector, the cards that I want to get, which I'm looking at are 580s or 570s, some have one connector, some have 2 connector. You have to make sure when you're buying these, because you don't want to buy cards and then realize that you don't have enough support for all of them. So that's for the power supply. Then, of course, you're going to need something like a... Whoa. It's a big cable here. You are going to need a power distributor, power brick, whatever you call this. You're going to need one of these. You're going to have a lot of... It's not just the computer plugged in, and I'll show you what else you need to plug in, but it's just always useful to have. Plus, it's a surge protector, so if in the case, because your rig is running constantly, in the case there's a thunderstorm or something, this will break and not your expensive rig. So that's always nice to have the peace of mind knowing that, some $20 power distributor will break instead of your, anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000 mining rig. So that's just peace of mind. Second off, this is so useful. Just a quality of life instrument. This you could pick up off Amazon for $20, $25. What it does, it measures your power draw from the wall of your entire rig. So with something like this, you can make sure you are supplying enough current to the power supply and also not pulling too much current from the wall. What I heard is that it's safe to use about 80% of the current that your outlet can support. So my outlets can support 15 amps, and that equals to 12 amps that I can safely run 24/7. Yes, 12. So with this, I can tell that if my rig is taking too much power, it's unsafe, I'll just unplug a graphics card, which is really useful because sometimes you really don't know how much power you're drawing from the wall. Sure, your power supply is rated for 1200, but it can be drawing 1300 and burn out really quickly. And this also tells you how many watts you're drawing, which is really useful, and it has a little calculator on the actual meter to tell you, you can input the price of your electricity, and it tells you how much electricity in dollars you are spending to run your power supply, multiplying by kilowatt hours times your electricity cost. It's really simple. You just don't have to pull out your calculator and do it yourself, and you don't have to look at your bill. It tells you. So you just know how much of your cryptocurrency, if you want to pay off the electric bill through the cryptocurrency, how much of the cryptocurrency you have to set aside and sell to pay off the electricity bill, because, it's right here. What else? This is super useful. If you don't know what this is a TP-Link something Ethernet extender. I don't know. I forget what it's called, but again, these are $25. What it is I don't have a router in my basement, and I can't put a router in my basement. So if I have a motherboard that doesn't support Wi-Fi, I'm gonna need a way to connect to the internet. This allows me to connect to the internet through a electricity outlet. So I plug it into an electricity outlet and I plug another one near my router, and then I have an Ethernet cable going into this, and then the other side goes into my motherboard and gives it electricity. Or not electricity, it gives it internet so it can connect in mine. These are the kind of things that you don't really see on a typical kind of mining list because it's not technically part of the computer, but you need internet to get it to mine. And if you don't have a router near the mining rig, you need something to get it working. And this came into my head a bit late, so I had to buy it kind of sporadically, but my other parts still haven't fully arrived. So this is very useful. I really recommend if you don't have Wi-Fi, well, I don't recommend, you need to have this. I did, like, as in, I can't recommend it. It's a fact that you need to have this if you don't have, if your motherboard does not support Wi-Fi. Very useful. Give you internet to your rig so you can actually mine. Oh, this is very, very useful. So these are little power buttons. When you don't have a case, it doesn't come with the power button, of course. So you have two options. You can either short your rig every single time you want to turn it on, and if you're like restarting it and shutting it down all the time, when you first set it up, it's just inconvenient. This power button, with a click of a button, it turns on because it plugs into the motherboard where the power button would usually be, instead of shorting it with a screwdriver or something and possibly shorting the wrong pins, which would be bad. This just does it for you. Click and your rig is on. Again, $10. Like, that's like a day of mining. Or 2 days of mining. It's worth it. It just makes your life easier. Of course, everyone knows, and if you don't know, you shouldn't be building a cryptocurrency mining rig. Risers. Risers. So important. Most mining motherboards, you will not be able to put a 16x graphics card in the slots because they come with only a 1x graphics card. I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you already have a brief knowledge. Oh, sorry. You probably have a brief knowledge of mining rigs, but motherboards will usually have 1 or 2 X16 PCIe slots, and the rest they will have X1. So you will need an adapter like this to be able to power your GPUs. Or not to power them, but to give them the information from the motherboard that they need to mine. And you see, on a mining rig, you can kind of visualize it. This is where the card will go in. It will slot in here, and it will rest on this bench. So I will, when I get my graphics cards and my motherboard, which my motherboard is currently stuck in customs for the past week, hopefully it gets released soon, and my graphics cards are also on the way. I think they're going to be here a lot sooner. These will hold all your graphics cards, and it gives it more space to breathe. If you can space these risers out, your entire rig won't get as hot. Cable management will be easier because everything's going to be spread out. And risers overall, you have one here, then you have one here, you have one here, you have one here. It just makes your life easier. Also, it's just a necessity because most motherboards will not have enough slots for your graphics cards, and you will just need risers no matter what. I picked these risers up off eBay for $2.99 Canadian each, which seems like too good of a bargain, but once I start using them, I'll see if they actually work. Plus $12 shipping. And I ordered 8 of these, but luckily there was a logistics error and I got 9. So if I ever get a 9th GPU, even though my motherboard can only support 8, I'll have an extra riser. Lastly, if you are going to be pulling more than 1,000 watts or even more than 800 watts, I would strongly recommend an 14 AWG power cord. Now, it's a bit misleading how power cord thicknesses are kind of given, because the thinnest power cord is 18 AWG. I don't know why that 18 AWG is thinner than 14 AWG, but that's just how it is. So if you want, my PSU came with this power cord, so most expensive PSUs will just come with a 14 AWG power cord because they're assuming you're going to be using, if you're buying a 1200 watt power supply, Corsair will just assume you're going to be using the 1200 watts or 1000 watts. This is to make sure that your power cord does not melt and burn your house down. Because if your power cord is too thin and you're drawing too many watts, it's gonna create a lot of heat and the plastic around is gonna start melting, and it could possibly either just break your computer or short circuit, start a fire, and your house is gone. So when you're messing with electricity, being on the safe side is of course the smartest choice. So 14 AWG cable, very useful. The one Corsair provided is very long, so again, super useful. Peace of mind type stuff. If you're okay living on the edge with a hot power cord that could melt at any moment, go for it. But me, I'm a bit skeptical, antsy, whatever you want to call it, anxious. I want a 14 AWG power cord. So that's really everything I have currently. The motherboard, which comes with a CPU and cooler and RAM that I bought off eBay, is coming, stuck in customs, and the GPUs that I'm going to be using for my mining rig. I was initially planning the 574 gigabytes, but there is a DAG file issue. If you don't know what a DAG file is, it's pretty much a file that your GPU must load to mine. And I've been thinking of what graphics cards to buy, and I think the best option right now, if you are looking to mine, would be to buy a RX 580 8GB, which are also severely discounted because they are amazing cards. There are a lot of units out there. You want to buy an 8GB card. It doesn't have to be a 580. It just has to be a card with more than 4GB of VRAM. And then you can attach all your other cards with 4GB or less of VRAM. The way that it works is that the 8GB card will load the entire DAG file for the other cards. Once it loads the DAG file, your other cards will be able to mine, getting the information from the 8GB card, which is super like a super cool way to circumvent the DAG file issue. So just kind of a recap, if you're looking to mine with amazing cards like the 574 gigabytes, you need to get a card that can support the rest of the DAG file, because Ethereum, or Ethash, the most profitable algorithm on these cards, Ethereum Classic and Ethereum will be surpassing a 4GB DAG file by the end of 2020. Once that happens, your cards will be unable to mine that algorithm, which is the most profitable algorithm for those cards. So you'll just be a lot less profitable, like a fifth as profitable. So you really need to find out another way. If you don't want the 570s, the problem that I was having is that you can either buy 578 gigabytes, which will work just fine, but I can find any good deals on them. You can also, if you like, buy the 580s, 8 gigabytes, but a lot of them come with 2 power connectors, which is an issue, especially for my power supply, which only has a total of 8 that comes with it. So you'd have to buy another power supply or somehow manage to have enough of those PCIe cables to safely have all those cards running. So that's why I think for my rig, I'm going to have one 580 8GB and the rest are going to be 574 gigabytes, because those are the best deal cards you can get, best bang for your buck, fastest ROI, just amazing cards. AMD really knows how to make a good graphics card. They're just, yeah. So I think that's all for that. So now time for overall fun. I had so much fun researching and building and finding all these parts. Of course, it's fun to spend money, but it's also fun as a computer enthusiast to be able to do all this, especially during quarantine where everyone's sitting at home bored, not knowing what to do. This is the best way, I think, especially if you're, a kid, you're still living with your parents like myself. This is a great way to, if you don't have any startup capital, so if you don't have any startup money, this is a great way to convince your parents to get some money on this. I use my own money for this. That's just because I love cryptocurrency. Right now, I'm not spending on anything else. All the money that I don't use on food or other things outside of the house, I get to spend on this. But if you're a kid, you can convince your parents that this is an investment. You are eventually, if crypto is alive for the next few years, which for sure it will be, I think it will be, I think it's a very good segue into the future. Cryptocurrency is the future. That's my idea. It's an investment. If you're doing a rig with 580s, 570s, it should pay off if you get good deals on used parts. It should pay off in about a year and a half, 2 years. But once it pays off, it's just passive income. That's how you can, if you're a computer enthusiast and you want to spend your money, or you need to convince your parents, if you're bored at home, to spend their money on a computer, this is how you can do it. You get to build this, and then you get your money back over time, and you get to invest into the future currency, which is a great pitch to your parents, for example. Or if you're just bored, you have your own money, you're not spending it on food, and it's always fun to spend money. Make a cryptocurrency rig. What do you have to lose? Nothing. It makes money, it's cool, and you get to tell people you're a crypto investor. That's cool enough for me. If I meet somebody new, they're like, what do you do? It's like, I invest into crypto. They think they're gonna think you're badass. So build stuff, make money, and you look badass to people. That's a pretty good deal for crypto. This video will have to be made in 2 parts because, again, my motherboard is stuck in customs. God knows when that's going to be coming. And my graphics cards, they should be coming sometime this weekend, maybe next week. But once I get everything up and ready, I will be making another video of me actually building it and me showing you guys everything. You'll see, I'll probably make 2 more videos. The next video will be me building it, and the third video will be me overclocking, configuring, undervolting, changing timings, all that, to make my rig as efficient as possible, to make your most bang for buck, to get ROI as soon as possible, or ROI as soon as possible, to get everything running as best as possible, and just tinkering with it, which is always fun. So until then, be safe, stay healthy, respect quarantine.